The first time I felt it, it was in the way he kissed me. Too slow, too careful, like he was trying to remember how. My name is Natalie Quinn, and I've been married to Ethan for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, grounded, predictable in a way I loved. He knew how I took my coffee, how I slept only with socks on, how I cried during Pixar movies no matter how many times I'd seen them. He was my person, until he came back from that business trip. Ethan had been gone for just over a week, a sudden last-minute conference in Chicago. He called me every night, sent photos, a video of him eating deep-dish pizza, smiling in the exact way I loved. I missed him more than usual. But the second he walked through the door, something was off. At first it was tiny things. He hugged me too long, almost like he was waiting for me to pull away. He said, "Hey, Nat," instead of "Hey, baby," which he'd said for the last 6 years without fail. Then he asked if I'd always had the mole above my lip, the mole I'd had since birth. I laughed it off. Maybe he was just tired, jet-lagged, disoriented. But the next morning it got weirder. He made me coffee. Wrong brand, wrong mug. Then asked where I kept the sugar phone, which we'd always kept in the same blue ceramic bowl on the counter. That night, when we watched TV, he picked a crime thriller. Ethan hated crime shows. Always said they gave him nightmares, but when I reminded him, he chuckled and said, "Guess I'm finally growing up." Still, I told myself maybe he had changed, maybe people evolve. But then came the moment I couldn't ignore. We were getting ready for bed. I stood in front of the mirror, brushing my teeth. He walked behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, and whispered, "You smell different." I turned. "I've been using the same perfume since college." He blinked, then smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That night I lay awake watching him sleep. He looked like Ethan, sounded like Ethan, but something deep in my bones told me this was not my husband. The next day I decided to test him, something only Ethan would know. I made pancakes, added too much vanilla on purpose, just like I did the first time we cooked together in his college apartment. He took a bite, smiled, and said, "Tastes great, babe." Wrong. Ethan had hated that batch. He'd called them sugar slaps to the mouth. We laughed about it for years, so I tried again. Pulled out the old photo album from our honeymoon, the one with the Polaroid tucked inside from a night in Santorini. Ethan's favorite picture. But when I showed it to him, he said, "Wow, I don't even remember this one." My hands went cold. Over the next few days, I noticed more. He buttoned his shirts the opposite way Ethan did. He started parting his hair on the left. Ethan always did right. He never used his reading glasses anymore. And he didn't call his mother on Sunday. Ethan never missed those calls. I was unraveling, because every sign said this man wasn't Ethan. But he looked like him, sounded like him. He even knew my dog's name from childhood, what side of the bed I slept on, how I screamed during horror movies. Then something strange happened. A package arrived, a small box addressed to Ethan from a return address in Florida. He wasn't home. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside, an old leather bracelet, faded, handcrafted, and a note. "Glad you asked for this back. Still can't believe it's been 20 years. Call me sometime. Jay." I'd never seen it before, and Ethan never lived in Florida. I asked him about it that night. His face changed, like I'd caught him in a lie. He took the bracelet, shoved the box into his briefcase, and muttered something about old college stuff, then walked away. I didn't sleep. I waited until he left the next morning. Then I went through his things. Something I'd never done before, because I never had to, because I trusted my husband. But I didn't find a passport, not a single ID, not even a single photo with his mother from this year. All his belongings were curated, like someone had carefully chosen what to bring. My hands were shaking when I opened his laptop. I didn't know his password. Ethan always used our anniversary date. This time it didn't work. I tried 3 times. Then it locked me out. When he came home, I asked one question, simple, software terrified. "What's my middle name?" He looked up, smiled, and said, "Elizabeth." My heart dropped. My middle name is Marie. After he got my middle name wrong, I didn't say a word. I didn't scream or accuse him, I just nodded and smiled. Because I knew in that moment, whoever he wasn't my husband. The next morning after he left for work, I called his mother. We hadn't spoken in a while, not since the wedding anniversary dinner where she barely looked at me. But today I had questions only she could answer. "Hi Alice, it's Natalie." "Oh, Natalie, is everything all right?" I took a breath. Did Ethan ever mention having a sibling? Silence. Then her voice sharp. "Why would you ask that?" I hesitated, just curious. "He's been acting different lately. I thought maybe something." "Ethan was an only child," she snapped. "I don't know what's gotten into you, Natalie." But the way she said it, too fast, too forceful, like she'd practiced that lie before. So I tried another angle. "Did he ever live in Florida?" Another pause. "Florida?" Never, he's always been here. Look, I have to go." And she hung up. My stomach flipped. She was hiding something. I searched everything I could, old social media posts, public records, even Ethan's childhood school photos in the attic box we kept untouched since moving in. That's where I found it. A class picture, 3rd grade. There were 2 boys, identical, standing side by side, one labeled Ethan Quinn, the other, no label at all. I turned the photo over, in faint pencil. Ethan and Elijah, 1995. Elijah. I had never heard that name in my life. Ethan had never mentioned a twin. Why would his family hide that? Why would he pretend the boy never existed? I kept digging, found a birth announcement in the local paper archives. Welcoming twin boys, Ethan Michael and Elijah Marcus Quinn, born April 3rd, 1987. I was shaking. I wasn't just paranoid, I was right. Ethan had a twin, and someone had gone to great lengths to erase that fact from existence. I searched for Elijah online. Nothing. No photos, no LinkedIn, no criminal records, no obituaries. It was like he had vanished from the system, except for one post, on a forgotten genealogy message board from 5 years ago. The user, eQuinn88. Message searching for biological family. Was separated at birth. Name might have been changed. The post was only replied to once, by someone named J. Marks, the same name from the bracelet package. They wrote, "Try Florida DMV records. You're listed as Elijah Carson now." My breath caught. Carson. The return address on the bracelet box had also been in Florida. I searched DMV public records in that county. And there he was, Elijah Carson. Same birth date, same face. His driver's license photo sent chills down my spine because it was Ethan's face, only the eyes were different, colder, sharper. So now I knew the man living in my house, sleeping in my bed, was not Ethan Quinn. He was Elijah Carson, and the real Ethan. I didn't know where he was or if he was even alive, I closed the laptop slowly and cried, but not just from fear, from betrayal, from grief, because somehow I still hoped I was wrong. That night he came home like nothing was wrong. Kissed me on the cheek, asked what was for dinner. I told him I wasn't feeling well. He didn't press. He never really cared how I felt, I realized. Not the way Ethan used to. After he fell asleep, I took his keys, opened his car trunk in the driveway with a flashlight, and found a black duffel bag. Inside, a second phone, 3 burner SIM cards, a folder labeled Quinn Estate Backup Docs. I flipped through the folder. It was filled with copies of Ethan's ID, not originals, just copies. But tucked inside the back pocket was the worst thing I could have found. A photo of me, sleeping, taken from the foot of the bed. Dated 2 weeks before he came home from his business trip. My legs gave out. I sat in the driveway, sobbing silently. Because this wasn't just identity theft. This was planned, calculated, obsessive. He had watched me, photographed me, prepared for this. I wasn't living with a stranger. I was living with a stalker in my husband's skin. I didn't go back inside right away. After finding the photo in his trunk, I sat in my car until the sky turned pink and my tears dried stiff on my cheeks. Then I made a choice. I was done pretending. When I stepped through the front door, he was at the kitchen counter sipping coffee, like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't stolen a life that wasn't his. I sat across from him, calm. You know, it's funny. I was going through some old photos and found one from 3rd grade. He didn't blink, just smiled. Yeah? It had 2 little boys, identical. One was Ethan, the other was you. The smile faltered, slightly, barely, but it was enough. He set the mug down. What exactly are you saying? I leaned forward. I'm saying, I know who you are, Elijah. Silence. Then something terrifying happened. He smiled again, but this time it was different, sharper, like the mask had finally slipped. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. My heart pounded, but I held my ground. Where is Ethan? He shrugged. Does it matter? I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. It does to me. He didn't answer, just walked toward me, slow and deliberate. He always had the perfect life, the perfect job, the perfect wife. He stopped inches from my face. You don't know what it's like to be the forgotten one. The shadow. I wanted to scream, to slap him. But instead I whispered, you're sick. He leaned in, lips almost grazing my ear. And yet you didn't even notice for weeks. I stepped back, choking on disgust. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't stay in the house. So I called a friend, my coworker, Jenna, and told her everything. She offered her spare room, no questions asked. Before I left, I set up a trap. I hid a small voice recorder under the dining table. If Elijah slipped again, I wanted proof. And he did. 2 days later, I listened to the recording from Jenna's guest room, curled in a blanket with shaking hands. On the tape, Elijah speaking to someone on the phone. She knows, doesn't matter, I'll play nice until it blows over. No, there's no body, he's not dead, just gone for now. My blood ran cold. Ethan was alive but missing, and Elijah had no intention of giving him back. I sent the recording to a private investigator the next morning, told them everything. I didn't trust the police. Not yet. Not without more. The PI got to work fast. 2 days later, they found a storage unit rented under the name Marcus Quinn. Inside, Ethan's phone, his clothes, a hotel keycard from Chicago, and a duffel bag with his wedding ring. But no Ethan. Still, it was enough. The investigator handed over everything to the authorities, and that's when the tide turned. One morning while Elijah was in the shower, I got a call. Blocked number. A man's voice, weak but clear. "Natalie?" I froze. "Ethan? I don't know where I am, but I got away. I heard you were looking for me." I burst into tears. He told me what he could, that Elijah had drugged him in Chicago, held him in a remote cabin in upstate New York. But he escaped, got help from a trucker, and was now at a safe house. I asked him to stay hidden for now. Then I called the PI again. We had a new plan. That night I cooked dinner, poured Elijah a glass of wine, laughed at his jokes, pretended to forgive, and while he sat there eating like everything was normal, I pulled out the recorder and pressed play. His own voice echoed through the room. "There's no body, he's not dead, just gone for now." His fork dropped. I stood. "You're done pretending, and this time the world will hear everything." The silence after I hit play was louder than anything Elijah had ever said. He sat there, frozen, mouth half open, eyes darting toward the door like a trapped animal. I stood tall. I know everything, the twin, the identity switch, the drugs, the cabin. Ethan called me. His jaw clenched. "You're bluffing." I took a deep breath, then opened my phone gallery, played the short voice message Ethan left me earlier that morning. "I love you, Nat. I'm coming home soon, and I'm not letting him get away with what he did." Elijah's face drained of color. Then in a quiet, bitter voice, he said, "You would have been happier with me, you know that, right?" I didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Thanks to the PI's recordings, the physical evidence, and Ethan's official statement, they had everything they needed. They arrested Elijah on the spot for identity theft, unlawful imprisonment, and attempted fraud. As they led him away, he turned back one last time and said, "He abandoned me first, don't forget that." I closed the door on him for good. Ethan came home the next day, bruised, tired, but alive. I ran into his arms like a woman who hadn't breathed in weeks. We cried, held each other, didn't speak for hours, because what do you say after something like that? He told me everything. That Elijah had approached him outside his hotel pretending to want to reconnect, then drugged his drink. He woke up tied to a chair in a cabin, no phone, no wallet, no ID. Just Elijah saying, "You don't deserve the life you have." It took him a week to escape, another 2 days to find someone who believed him, but he never gave up, because of me. The investigation was long. Elijah pled guilty to several charges and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. But honestly, the sentence didn't matter to me. What mattered was that he couldn't touch our life anymore. Ethan and I went to therapy, worked through the cracks, the trauma, the mistrust. There were nights I still flinched when the light flicked on too quickly. When I smelled his cologne and had to remember this was Ethan, not Elijah. But slowly we healed. People asked me how I didn't notice sooner, how I could live with someone and not know it wasn't my husband. And to that I say, grief makes you vulnerable, hope makes you blind, and monsters wear familiar faces more often than we like to admit. But I see clearly now. I know who I married and who tried to take him from me, but I'm still here. And so is Ethan, and we're stronger than ever. Because truth, no matter how buried, has a way of coming back home.